All right, everyone. Welcome to day two. It's so good to see you all, and I'm so glad you either made it today live or came back for the second day live, or if you're catching this on replay. So honored you would take the time out of your day to soak up the magic that Julie and I have planned to deliver today. Yesterday, we had a special treat, a special guest with Kelly Brock. And go ahead and put in the chats if Kelly moved you to your soul. Today, I have another special treat. All treats, no tricks. We are done with trick or treating. Today is Julie, and I'll introduce her here shortly, but we cannot wait to offer you what we wish we had stumbled upon much earlier in our lives. Am I right, Julie? So tell me in the comments if you already know you're an exceptional partner. Not just think, but know in your body that you have an amazing heart and that you love your partner, or if you're currently single, that you have the capacity to love someone so hard. And if he could just feel that if he could just feel what you know inside, that you have a love that is so ginormous, that could be over the moon, if he would only just realize, right? Then you'd have a way more satisfying relationship than you do now. Who here wants a grounded, anchored, settled kind of love rather than a showy, shiny, in your face, looks good on Instagram kind of love? Now, tell me if there's also a part of you that feels frustrated, that you see others happy in their relationship and it kills you inside. That you're happy for them and you do like their family photos on social media, but a little part of you seethes every time. The truth is, they're not better than you. They're no different than you. Like yesterday, I had you write down the sun shines on all of us. But if you're here, I know you're probably sick of all the frameworks and strategies and tips and tricks. And I know you think you've maybe learned everything there is to learn, but I can assure you that if you're here, there is more to learn. And not in the intellectual kind of way, but more in this initiation to activate all the knowledge that's already up there and translate it to the body. So, like yesterday, I want to start with a collective definition. Yesterday, we talked all about trust, how the foundation of self trust is so important and essential before rebuilding trust with anyone else outside of ourselves. Today, we're going to dive into trauma and trying again, whatever that means to you. For some, trying again may mean in your current partnership. This is where you're feeling led and called that I want to repair. I don't know if I have a shot at it, but if there's even an ounce of hope, I want to learn it. Or maybe trying again for you just means getting out of bed after a really shitty season and a long, month of depression or whatever you've gone through. It's trying again for yourself. Maybe it's putting yourself out there again if you're at a place where you're thinking of dating, whatever trying again means to you. So, welcome to day two. We are back, and today we're going to start by defining trauma. When I say the word trauma, what I mean is the imprint left on the body by past events that were too intense or threatening for the nervous system to fully process at the time. A lot of people use the word trauma incorrectly. They talk about like the event being the trauma when the event itself is not actually the trauma. The trauma is what's left on your body, the imprints, the residue of how this has still being encoded and imprinted on your nervous system, in your muscles, in your breath patterns. And so, similar to, let's say, a car accident, the actual accident and the collision itself is not the trauma. It's the bruises left on your body. It's the cut on your cheek. It's the burn from the airbag. That's the actual trauma that's left on your body. So the same thing happens with going through emotional trauma. There are ways that our body still holds on to that and it shows up in different symptoms and physical manifestation. And so we're going to dive into that today. Before we do that, let's take a moment, little mantra moment to close your eyes. If you want to put your hand over your heart, take a deep, slow breath in, and then exhale out the mouth. If you'd like to repeat after me, my body deserves my kindness. I honor what I survived. I offer myself compassion, not judgment. Another breath in and an exhale out. And slowly opening your eyes when you're ready. So put in the chat if you've heard of the term or the book, The Body Keeps the Score. How does the body keep the score? What does that even mean? So, when we go through trauma, the body actually remembers, and it's not because it hates us. It's actually really wise, evolutionary wise, and to protect us. If I touch a hot stove and it burns me, and my body doesn't remember how that feels, I'm going to touch the hot stove again. So, it's good that we have this built into our system, that our body records what we've been through because it's constantly working to keep us safe at all times. That's the nervous system's biggest goal, is let me help you avoid any future danger because that stove really hurt last time. So it is a good thing. Where it goes awry and where it starts to block our connection and relationships and make repair impossible is when our body is stuck on that hypervigilant scanning mode, when we're stuck in the protection mode, when we don't know how to return to safety, when we've lost the ability to tell the difference between what is real danger and perceived danger. So, starting with how the body remembers, it shows up in different physiological symptoms, different aches and pains and things that honestly we've normalized a lot in our society, but it actually isn't very normal. The way we were designed is not to live with all of these chronic digestive issues and nausea, cravings, immune system issues, chronic pain, flashbacks, headaches, dissociation. All of these we kind of see as these, what I say, pesky house rats. Like, get that freak away. If only my body would cooperate, my headache would go away, this symptom would leave, then I would be more productive at work, or then I would be better at parenting, or then I would be able to blah, 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 fill in the blank. So the invitation here is just the smallest little mindset shift of, what if these symptoms were actually the wisest messengers I have available to me, the greatest resources, even better than my therapist, better than my coach, better than that book, better than that podcast that I listened to? What if my symptoms in my body were actually the signals pointing to the root of what actually needed to be fixed? Similar to a car. Imagine your car is constantly breaking down and you're trying to listen to a podcast on cars and all the car problems, or read a book. Like, it's gonna kind of take forever. But if you learn what that little light means, if you open the manual, the little book, like, oh, that's the ignition. Okay, now I can get straight to the root and fix that. And look, it's working again. A lot of us are probably on this call because maybe we've experienced trauma in our current relationship or a recent relationship. But I'm going to show you how your trauma and your own different abandonment wounds or attachment styles or pains in your life really came from way, way, way before whoever it was that hurt you or did you dirty. So this is called the still face baby experiment. And are you saying FYI to me, Julie?
No, I was saying it can be triggering and activating, just to prep yourselves. That's what I was saying.
Thank you, Julie. All right, here we go.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, what's happening here? She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
Okay, so this is really the roots and the foundation of what's known as attachment theory. Drop in the chat if you've heard of attachment theory. And the theory and studies show that this is where it begins, these early bonding formations, literally from the early birth experience of how you came into the world, whether it was a C-section, a natural birth, a long experience, a slow experience, all of those early imprints are left on the body, especially the first 18 months of life. How, as a young child, latching went if you tried to breastfeed as a baby. How, as you began to grow, caretakers attuned to you or did not attune to you, met your needs, or weren't able to. And this is all imprinting and creating this blueprint in our nervous system from the earliest interactions of our life for what feels safe and what feels distressing. So yes, as Julie said, this can be triggering for many different reasons. For me, when I listened to this, it immediately triggered me because my mom, some of you know, has dementia and is declining on hospice. And so this has been the distress I have felt like, whoa, she's not able to respond to me in the way that I've been used to. And so similar to that baby being like, come on, this is what we normally do. Where did you go? So just depending on how those early interactions were, or I always give the example of how I let my son Ollie cry it out, the sleep training method, and how if I could go back, I would totally do that different, because it was really distressing for him, and that's something that we've even had to repair. The ruptures that you may have experienced in your current or most recent relationship actually didn't begin just there. It can be traced back as early as this kind of stuff. And how many of you can relate to that baby in that experiment? Like, hey, I'm trying to get my partner's attention. Let me try to fawn and smile at him and do something to bring him back and get a reaction out of him. Or let me cry out in distress to let him know, like, hey, I'm here. Do you not see me? And so, however it went early on in life, it can show up in our current day, grown up attachment styles or attachment trauma. So these are the four main styles that we can recognize in ourselves or lean towards. And if anyone knows me, they know I'm not a fan of labels because labels can be so limiting and keep us in a box. And so even in the way that I talk about this, it's going to be a little different. Like, hey, I noticed these patterns versus I'm avoidant. No, 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 no. Don't ever attach that to your identity. Like, we don't need to say I am anxious or I'm disordered. Like, ew, no. Let's not do that. But it can be so helpful for this initial blueprint of like, whoa, I noticed these patterns in this relationship. And it's also, I'm able to be flexible and change. And we'll get into that in a second too. So the goal, right, is secure attachment. I'm going to talk more about that in the next slide. But pop in the chat which one you identify with most. Which one do you notice showing up in your current or most recent relationship? Are you leaning more towards the avoidant patterns, like super independent, pretty high self-esteem, but have a hard time going deep with emotions and maybe trouble asking for help, very much feeling safe with distance and needing to recharge or reset your nervous system with alone time? Anxious tends towards more low self-esteem and anxiety, given the name, lots of rumination, a lot of fear of separation, a lot of fear of conflict. wants to be close at all times. That one was me. Like the stage 5 clinger, if it was up to me, I'd be body wrapped around my husband 24/7. Meanwhile, he's drowning, like, oh my gosh, this is too much. And that was our dance, the anxious avoidant dance for so long, where I felt like I was chasing, seeking regulation in my nervous system through closeness, and he was avoiding, seeking regulation in his nervous system through distance. So for so long, I thought, like, we're not a fit, this isn't gonna work, until I learned that's actually can be a beautiful partnership if you just learn how to meet in the middle. And then the disordered one, hate that name. I swear I want to come up with a different name for that. Let's just say the flavorful one. Let's call it that. That's more fun. But this is a mix of both, a mix of avoidant and anxious, where it's that push-pull tendency. I want closeness, I want intimacy, but when it arrives, ooh, it freaks me out. So I pull back. And then I'm in this like this space by myself, and then I get alone and I want closeness again, so I try. And so it's this push pull, this back and forth. So I see a lot of people already popping in the chat which one you lean towards. This is the good news. There's a term called earned secure attachment, which is we can all learn secure attachment regardless of early experiences. And Julie's about to share her story in a moment that I can't wait for you to hear, because I hope it inspires everyone. It really doesn't matter how awful your entry was into this world or your childhood or upbringing. Everyone can learn this. So, definition of secure attachment is the felt sense embodiment of learned safety, connection, and emotional resilience in relationships as an adult, even if early experiences didn't provide consistent security, reflecting the nervous system's capacity to heal and grow. This was actually an exercise I did on, Kelly mentioned yesterday, the private island. This is the private island she's talking about. And this woman right here, Brittany Turner, in the black tank top, she's the one that owns the island. Amazing story. You'll have to look her up. She's changing the world through this private island and hosting retreats. But this was a couples retreat where I had couples sense into their own attachment styles and start meeting their edges and being able to meet each other midway. So being able to notice the sensations in their body that, hey, when I'm making eye contact or holding that for extended periods of time, I feel safer and safer. Might be one person's experience, while the other is like, ooh, this is getting intense. I want to look away. My heart's actually beating faster. And being able to slowly titrate and gently move in ways that we can find safety and practice stretching our window of tolerance and our capacity to meet our partner without losing ourselves. I want to pause here. And I actually want to take this time to introduce Julie Brumley. If you are already a client of mine and know Julie and you are obsessed with her, drop Julie in the chat. So many clients say she's the best part of the program. We love us some Julie. What Julie means to me, I mean, it's hard sometimes to get through it without choking up, because Julie was there at the worst of the worst of the worst moments of my relationship. I remember it like it was a second ago. My husband and I, for those of you who don't know, the biggest, most painful rupture that we went through in our relationship was betrayal trauma. I, on the emotional side, him on the physical side, and it shattered me. If you've been through it, you know there's nothing like betrayal trauma. The impact it leaves on your nervous system is gnarly and ugly, and I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. And my husband decided to open up about this on our way to Julie's house. So she saw me within 5 minutes of like discovery, and in my raw, ugly crying, nose snotting, running out of the house, like acting like an animal. It was animalistic behavior out of me. And she held space and was there in that moment, one of the top, 3 worst moments of my life. We have a very intricate story where our paths have crossed and intersected. She was my codependency sponsor for a long time. And she was like my beacon on a hill of, if her and Matt can make it, this is my hope. And then she'll share her story in a moment of what happened there. But eventually, God led Julie back to me because she saw me stumble upon this somatic healing. She ended up coming into the Root to Rise program. We both had this role reversal, like, what is happening? You're the teacher, Julie. What do you mean you want to learn from me? This is weird. How do we do this for both of us? We had to talk through it. And fast forward, now we are partners in this work. We meet weekly and we talk through how can we knock our client experience out of the park even deeper this week ahead, and how can we support this client, that client. And I always tell her this is the greatest honor to get to partner with you. And the tapestry of woven intersections of our relationship is just one of the most precious, tender things. So, Julie is a rock star. We're really good yin and yang. I've been told I'm the more gentle, soft spoken, and Julie's direct. You see what you get what you see. And together we really make a great team. So, Julie, I'm going to spotlight you now.
Well, thank you so much, my friend. I mean, I'm feeling very emotional right now. Kind of knew that I would, but every time I see that experiment, it's hard. So here's the thing. Attachment is real, and I know you all know this, but from a person who started her trauma from the womb, my birth mother attempted to abort me twice between weeks 12 and 16. And I didn't even know that until my, I think, early 30s, if I remember right. I think it was like 2010 when I first found that out. And it fragmented me in many ways. I fell apart. And I was married at the time. We had um, two small children. At the time, they were probably 6 and 8. I remember when I received that information, it literally felt like somebody had thrown something in my brain and it broke. And I asked my husband at the time to step out so that I could take some time and try to figure out, how do I put these fragments back together? But how the hell am I going to do that when I just am now finding this stuff out? And there were 6 pages of information about a history that I did not know, that I couldn't finish, because once I got to that place, I'm like, I don't want to know anymore. I've got to figure this out first. And I was surprisingly getting my master's in counseling at the time. And all of this came about because my professor said to me at one of my intensives that she was a foster parent, and if I didn't deal with what she called the skeletons in my closet, that I would harm people in my practice. And you can't, I mean, a person who is going to be a counselor, you can't hear that. You can't hear you're going to harm people. And her point basically was that my adoption had harmed me. But at that point, a lot of adoptees, y'all, we don't have any idea that we have been damaged by the trauma that we've experienced. And so I say this to say that's a very extreme version of what happens to us attachment wise. When I was born, I was immediately whisked away to a nursery, never touched my birth mother, went directly from there to a foster family, was with that foster family for 7 weeks. That foster family decided they could no longer accommodate me, so gave me back to the state. This all happened in the first 7 weeks of my life. So when you look at that still face experiment and you think about that one situation that baby experienced, one where his mom's face turned away. I mean, it gives me the chills just thinking about it. I experienced that repeatedly in the first 7 weeks of my life without any secure attachment. And I know Maya gets this because her story is even more intense. The crazy thing, y'all, is when we don't have that attachment at the beginning, we seek it elsewhere. And in order for us to survive, we need it. We need milk. We need touch. You guys have heard that whole failure to thrive theory, that when we don't have that touch, it definitely causes us to not be able to do well physically, and some children even die. So all of that to say, attachment really does matter. And I did not realize how much this trauma, so Becky talked about the fact of the trauma. So there were a lot of different repeated traumas, y'all. And those were big T traumas that I didn't even know were big T traumas until I was in my 30s. You can imagine how that impacted a marriage. So bringing that into a marriage, and definitely was disorganized in how I attached. There were times that I was anxious. There were times that I was avoidant. I would go back and forth between the two. I cycled through all the trauma responses. I had no idea that's what was happening because it's what I was born into, y'all. I felt comfortable with that. So it's what I sought in a relationship. I sought that push pull, that chase run, because it's what I knew. I didn't know any better. And so once I began to know better and began to do better and began to show up differently, my husband at the time couldn't handle that. So you have the picture of what Kelly described yesterday, which is beautiful. And I've gotten to a place now in my journey where I can hear that and I cannot feel jealous, to be honest. I can hear, I mean, Becky was with me the first time these emotions hit me. We actually went and met Kelly and we were spending time with her and we got in the car and I just started sobbing. She's like, what is going on? And I'm like, that's what I wanted. What the hell happened? Like, why couldn't I have that? You know? And honestly, I took responsibility for my part. I knew at this point I was in the divorce happened right after my 50th birthday. So we'd been married 28 years. My boys were adult children at this point. And he had repeatedly cheated on me, but I didn't know that. My body did. And so there was a period of time where we had this sobriety that was beautiful. And that was the period that Becky was a part of my sphere. Once I got my master's degree and started practicing and started helping. But what I noticed that Becky was talking about in the beginning, all the different dissociation and flashbacks, all of that, those things were happening in my life all the time. And I didn't have anything to attach them to. And what I began to realize is this goes way back further. This has nothing to do with Matt. And I remember saying that to him multiple times, like, I think this is deeper, but I don't even know how to explore this. I don't even know what to do. I tried everything. I tried EMDR. I read all the books. I mean, y'all, I was freaking a counselor at this point. I had done all the work. I had tried everything. And I remember saying in the group with Becky and her best friend that was in there as well, I remember telling them, I have a vivid memory. I remember the room that we were in. And I said, there is a missing piece and I don't know what it is. But as soon as I find it, I promise you I will share it with you. And then within a few years, Becky found it. And so I remember that feeling when I was sitting, Matt and I were not doing well. This was in 2022. And he was acting so weird and I could not figure it out. And I felt like a huge disappointment. Like everything that I did to try to please him. And, I was definitely in the anxious place at this point, because I couldn't figure out how I'd lost him. Like there was just this massive disconnect. And the year prior, I had found my birth family. I'd found my birth father. And there was this connection that he witnessed with them, not just my birth father, but with the sisters and the brother that I had, that he was jealous of. And we talked about it and I had no way to comfort him. It wasn't my place to, what the hell? It was so odd. And I had to allow myself to just let him not be okay with it, because this was my new story. I had never been with my biology. I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know it was going to feel like somebody had electrocuted me the minute I was around them. I had no idea. I literally wanted to crawl into my dad's lap and be rocked. I'm 47 years old and I wanted to, like, all those things that I never received. I wanted it so desperately bad. I even told him that. I'm like, this is really odd, but I just need to be really honest about where I'm at, because I was in the somatic work at this point and I needed him to know what was going on in my body. And he was so wonderful. He was like, I want that too, but that's weird. And I was like, yeah, I know. And so it was this really interesting, dichotomy going on. And Matt witnessed all of this and said to me, that was meant for me. And I was like, hold on a second. How is that meant for you? This has nothing to do with you. So what it began to make me realize, he's not going to understand. And for me to be able to be okay, I'm going to need to separate myself until I can ground and be okay. And that's when I started this work. And during this time, he actually had another woman, but I did not fully know this. It wasn't even revealed, like, actually until 2 years later. So he's with her now. He's married to her now. Very, very, very weird. So all of this to say, I called Becky before the summer and I said, I need what you're doing. I feel like an imposter. I have no idea what to do with this information, but I need you. And like she said, we worked through it. And what I can tell you guys, we have multiple clients. One of them is actually on here who has said to us, I have no idea when the shift happened, but I am a different person. And when Kelly talked about those little imperceptible shifts yesterday, that's how this work changes you. The little imperceptible shifts that you make, moving slowly is the way. Stillness is the way in order to chill the trauma in our bodies. But in order to be able to do that, we have to do it slowly. So it started with little things for me. And I remember telling Becky, I'm like, putting a hand over my heart is going to solve my problem. You're a crazy person. That's ridiculous. I mean, I was actually kind of pissed about it. And so I put my hand over my heart every day anyway, because I'm an obedient Enneagram 1. So if somebody's going to tell me to do something, I'm going to freaking do it. So I did it, but I was like, oh, whatever. I guess this is supposed to help me. And over time, and the reason I chose that, like that was my go-to. Everybody has to find what their go-to is. Becky's was the 5 4 3 2 1. I couldn't do that because my mind couldn't remember what came next. I was like, yeah, I can't do that. Breathing was really, really hard for me because it increased the anxiety, which it does for some. And so my body as an adoptee, I had never been connected to it. I didn't know how. I was always in my head. And I think a lot of us feel that way. It's not just an adoptee thing. But I just remember in that moment, the minute my hand hit my heart, there was almost like this settling in my spirit. And I spent a lot of time just with my hand over my heart. I remember my ex, he was not my ex yet, but he asked me at one point, what are you doing? Like with this total critical look. And I'm like, laying my hand over my heart because it feels heavy. Like I just spoke the truth. Y'all, that was the beginning. And then I began to add more tools into my toolbox, like doing yoga every day. Now, I'm not saying y'all have to do this. I'm saying this is what worked for me. It was finding my secret sauce somatically that allowed me to be where I am today. We ended up getting divorced about a year later from that time. All him. He drove the whole thing. I didn't want it because I wanted God, because I believe in God, to redeem, to restore. But what I realized was as I started doing this work, he started moving away. That whole idea that Becky talked about yesterday, you either call them up or you call them out. Kelly called Josh up, and Josh is amazing. He is a full-on king. We've both met him. He rocks. Love the guy. I did a coaching certification with him, with Kelly. It was crazy. Matt couldn't handle it. It fully called him out clearly. And what ended up happening is we are now not together. And I never in a million years would have thought that would have been the case, but I am more secure in myself than I've ever been. And Becky's watched the entire journey. Like we have been with each other through the whole thing. We've seen the whole thing happen. We've all been in disbelief. Everybody around me is like, what? How? I don't even, because nobody could understand how this could happen. Honestly, this is what happens when you are not aligned with the person you are supposed to be with. And so it was okay. It was this place that I had to come into my own, find myself. I've started my own business. I obviously support Becky. I couldn't have done any of this while still attached to somebody who not physically, I'm so sorry, psychologically and emotionally and verbally abused me. I didn't even get into all of that. There's so much more to the story. But I want for Becky to be able to give you the rest because y'all, what she has found, her Root to Rise method has changed my life. And it has changed all the lives of the people that I've worked with. And what they'll tell you is I don't know when that pinpoint time was, but I know I'm different. And it's powerful. So I'm so glad you guys are here. You don't know what I feel, this energy buzzing through me. I'm so excited to be with you. Thank you for hearing my story. Thank you for being willing to listen and hold space for me. And love y'all.
Thank you, Julie. Love you so much. Guys, drop in the chat if that spoke to you in some way. If there was a part of her story that resonated, that helped, that shifted, that impacted. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable always, Julie, and even working through the trigger. I know that video always triggers you. So triggers are not a bad thing, guys. I'm going to replace the pin. triggers are blessings. They don't freaking feel like blessings. They are like, we want to avoid them like the plague, but it shows us where there's still healing available. And I know Julie's favorite way to heal is Brene Brown's way, where shame dissolves when told in safe spaces. So every time she's able to share this publicly, it's healing to her and you all holding space as well. I hope this just even shows you in real life this example of how to go from so much has happened to me and no one would blame Julie if she were to stay in this victim energy. I have all the writing on the wall for why I should just quit now because gosh, God must hate me, the universe must be conspiring against me. And that is literally the complete opposite. She is this real life example of a diamond who has become stronger, shinier, more valuable through all the fire, all the pressure, all the heat. So, Julie, hope you feel the love in the chat. And I want to invite you to turn inward. We're going to take another mantra moment. Put your hand on your heart if you'd like. You can roll your eyes like Julie did, like, but take a breath in and you just pick. You can sing the little jingle, Becky's doing a good job, Becky's doing a good job, or something softer that speaks to you like, I'm grateful I showed up for me today. Take a moment, get into your feels, into your body. Stretch your body, shake, move, wiggle, twist, crack your knuckles, anything that feels good for you. Now, we've covered some of the most important basics of trauma and how the body keeps the trauma. Trauma is the imprint left on the body. And you might even think about some of the symptoms that you've been experiencing lately. Take a moment and you might drop in the chat what you've noticed in your life, whether it's tight muscles recently, or your breath has been constricted, or you're dealing with migraines, autoimmune issues, chronic fatigue, insomnia, the list goes on and on. Take a moment just for yourself to see, maybe these are more than just my body hating me and breaking down, and I'm getting older and it's hormone shifts and all of this. Maybe this is actually the signals, the wise messengers pointing me to my freedom, pointing me to my healing. And this is where we can shift into the whole concept, the whole idea of trying again. I think everyone on this call, even though I don't know all of your individual stories, if I asked you to share a moment where you felt completely hopeless, destitute, depressed, like I can't try again, I'm in flop mode, I can't peel myself out of bed, I've lost motivation, I've lost zest for life, I think we would all have at least 10 stories to share, moments, right? Where we've been there. And so that's why it's so helpful to be in spaces like this where we're like, oh, Julie totally should have quit, like nobody would blame her. And like, look where she's made it and what she'd be missing out on now in her life. Gosh, if she could tell you the stories of what she's ushered in since becoming this new energetic match. It's another story for another day. But it is abundance, it is blessings, it is miracles, it is vitality after everything she's been through. So, when it comes to trust in your partner or a partner, what have you been believing you need to experience deep, unshakable trust? Do you see a particular type of partner as the one that you should have picked? Like, if only I had a guy like Kelly's husband, then it'd be easy to trust. I mean, this is just the dishes. Right? I had a client, I remember, come into work with me in Root to Rise, and she's like, what's the vibe of this space? Like, are these people fighting over dishes? Because if so, I don't think that's my people. We're dealing with like major earthquake level kind of ruptures here. And now it's our running joke. We still stay in touch. She's graduated the program. She's doing amazing. Her and her partner are back together. They're thriving, but we always joke about the dishes. So, is it that? Or do you see like a particular type of behavior from your partner being the key, the only thing missing to repair trust? If he were more affirming or more apologetic or more transparent, warmer in his tone, or open to couples counseling, then you'd be able to trust. Do you see maybe snooping, tracking, checking, controlling as the way to finally shake off the shackles of suspicion If I could just peek and make sure, then all the trust would come back and I'd be okay. I'd finally be able to breathe. And if anyone can relate to that, I mean, first offense right here. I did that for years, and all it did was keep me stuck in my trauma because it keeps me trapped in that hypervigilant protection mode, constantly scanning for threat versus coming back and realizing safety is found here and here alone. Safety is not found anywhere outside of me. So I want you to just get curious, like, what am I currently believing about what it takes to repair trust? And I'm already seeing the comments blow up. Love the awareness cultivating. Let me tell you, ladies, this is what Julie brought up. I'm so glad she did. Jealousy, that jealousy Julie had after leaving Kelly's house, right? Like, oh, that's what I wanted. I'm so glad Julie brought this up because jealousy is a blessing. It shows you the deepest desires of your heart. What you do with jealousy will determine whether you stay stuck in victim mode or you decide, I'm going to let this be my permission slip that I will become an energetic match for whatever it is that I'm wanting, whatever it is that I'm jealous of. If she can do it, that is my divine picture right in front of my face that, all right, I can learn that too. So what we usually do with jealousy is avoid that. We come up with this story of like, oh, there's a block between me and this person. She must have something I don't have. Where the tiniest shift that can crack big breakthroughs is seeing, ooh, I'm jealous of her. Interesting. Let me get curious about that. What is that showing me that I really want in life? And what could I even learn from her? What if I had the courage to get closer to her, scoot closer, like, hey, how do you get that in your life? So share if you feel comfortable in the comments. What are you jealous of deep down? There's no shame in our stories. We've all got wackadoodle stories that run in the background and limiting beliefs. And just like cockroaches, they scurry when the light switch is flipped on, when you bring your truth to safe spaces. So, what's your deepest desire? Where have you noticed jealousy lately in your life? We had a WhatsApp pregame party going. That was so fun getting to already get the party started before this even happened. And we're going to have post party fun as well. But there was a question from the WhatsApp group that said, is rebuilding trust even possible during a separation, an ongoing affair, and divorce proceedings already started? And I was so glad that question was asked because this is where most modern trust repair approaches fail. Remember that 80-20%, right, of our nervous system, where 80% of the communication of the neurotransmitters and chemical messengers in our body go from the body to the brain, but 20% of those messages go from the brain to the body. So many mainstream modern day attempts to repair when trust is broken just work with the neck up, just the 20%. They're not even addressing all the stuff, all the symptoms, all the gunk going on in your body. And so, who here has just been advised, go to couples counseling? Okay, that's the only way I can make it work. I got to drag my partner and he doesn't want to come. Who has tried that and it's either short lived bursts of relief or you leave feeling worse off than you came in and you're fighting with your partner? Or people throwing out band aid advice, all coming from good places of just wanting to see you well, but you just need to trust again. The fuck? No. If there's been a breach of trust, think about this in any other context. Whether it's been abuse in your relationship, betrayal, abandonment, addiction, financial spending habits that are hidden from you, like whatever the breach of trust is, if you think about this in a business partner setting, imagine your business partner steals all your money, just runs away with it, squanders it, and then everyone around you is saying, just trust again. You just need to trust again. Be like, no, that's bad advice. You'd see red flags immediately. You don't just trust again. You can repair within yourself. You can forgive. But I want to make this clear. Forgiveness and reconciliation are two completely separate things. You can forgive anyone. Forgiveness is your freedom. That's your ticket to freedom. That's you saying, I'm no longer carrying this because it is killing me to hold on to this resentment. It is literally, it's turning me into this ball of like, I don't even recognize myself anymore. But reconciliation, completely separate thing. So that's why we harped so much on the first step yesterday of repairing self-trust, of repairing our corroded relationship with our own intuition, of coming home to ourself. And then the second step, what we're going to end on today, is to see, All right, is reconciliation possible with this person? If the other party is open, let's talk about a more effective route than just forgive him or like just talk it out. Because talking keeps you stuck in the trauma. You're replaying all the details over and over and over again. Example of this, if you're working with a therapist or a coach or in a couples counseling session, let's even say, there's one way you can approach this and start trying to repair. It's through the verbal processing and all of the details, all the neck up stuff. So he said this, and then he did that, and then I said this, and it reminded me of that, and this is all in our head. What works so much better is tuning into what's happening in this moment, in this present moment, and in the body. You might say, when he said that, I felt my chest tighten and my stomach drop. I noticed sadness and this deep need to feel seen and understood. My question is, how can I stay grounded and express that need instead of shutting down? So the difference is, are we harping on the past and staying stuck in our trauma? Or are we focused on what's present, what's here, and being able to decide this is where I want to go? How do we create a roadmap there? Now, I will say, if there's been a significant breach of trust and you need at least one genuine, open, solid conversation about the details so that you're not staying stuck in hypervigilant mode and trying to fill in the blanks and wondering how much was truth, that can be so helpful to have one conversation of like, this is everything. I've said it all. You know, from here on forward, nothing between us. There's nothing I'm hiding. But continuing to talk about it over and over and over again in the past will keep us stuck in the past. And as you're trying these shifts out, this is where you're starting, like Julie said, to notice, okay, is this calling him up? Is he open to this? Even if it triggers him, is he, committed to expanding and growing with me? Or is this showing that he's moving further and further away and wants to have nothing to do with this? So as we begin the brave steps of moving forward toward reconciliation, we want to go slow and we want to take it almost like this experiment. This experiment of how does this feel in my body? What am I noticing in my partner? There is no rush, no urgency to make a decision right now if there's no immediate physical danger. Physical abuse is a separate topic, but this is all for situations where, okay, I'm in no immediate physical danger. There are some toxic AF patterns in my relationship, and I'm going to go into curious explorer mode as I begin to shift my energy and see how that feels in my body and how that manifests in his response to me. So instead of, you never listen to me, buddy, you might try, I notice I feel unheard when I share something vulnerable, and I can feel my chest tighten. What I really need in those moments is to feel seen. Another example, you made me so angry when you canceled again. That's going to immediately send his defenses up. Instead, you might say, I noticed anger and disappointment come up when the plans changed. It made me realize how much I was looking forward to that time together. Instead of you always shut down. Oh God, if I had $1 for every time I said that to my husband, and I thought maybe if I just say it for the millionth time, then it'll work. It never worked. Instead of that, you might try something honestly more authentic, more vulnerable, more honest, which might sound something like, I feel disconnection when things get quiet between us. I notice warmth start to cover over my body, and then I experience a little sadness and a longing to feel close. So just sit with these. Notice what even comes up in your body as I share these examples. These are not scripts that you go and parrot to your partner right after these call. We're literally just in exploration mode right now. We're considering the possibility of what if there is a better way to communicate. Speaking of communication, this is where so many people go wrong with this. This is the biggest thing. People come running to me when they start the Root to Rise program or they're looking into it. They're saying, my communication sucks. Like, it's going in circles. It's not going anywhere. We talk about and fight about the same things over and over and over again. Help me with my communication. A lot of people think neck up, just talking, words coming out of our mouth, when communication is actually 93% somatic. It's 93% nonverbal. Our body language, our vibe, our energy, our tone, it's in the invisible little feeling that we get. Think about yesterday with Kelly, that activation, like who felt so soothed? She barely said any words, but that hit me so hard and she was like, repeat after me. I like me. I like me. I'm so proud of me. It is not just the words that made me feel some type of way. I was getting this energy even through a Zoom screen. So only 7% of communication is actually the words spilling out of our mouth. And I'll expand on what I'm getting at. But there's two completely different energies between, excuse my language, I curse from time to time. But if I'm mad at someone and I'm just like, you motherfucker, they're gonna be like, ooh, she's mad, right? But if I'm really happy that somebody surprised me with a gift, I'm gonna be like, mother, totally different, right? Same words, but my body language, my energy, my tone, all of that's different. And this study here that I'm about to show you, this is one of my favorite things, blows my mind, so cool, so wild, but it shows how words do carry a vibrational frequency, and that vibrational frequency whatever it lands on can either disorganize that thing or it can create coherence. And so let me play this and then I'll explain a little bit more. This is so cool. So when these words were spoken over water molecules, this is what they looked like under a microscope. The word eternal was spoken and it formed into that. The word thank you was spoken and it formed into that. Now, the word Hitler was spoken. It looked like that. Love and gratitude. It's like a snowflake. Isn't that so, so crazy? Who's seen this before? Joy. This one was so interesting. Look at that. How wild is that? I mean, what do you even make of that? That brings up so many things. Evil. Holy moly. For real? Your dad speaking to his plants? Yes. That makes it grow. I talk to my plants too. Look at that. Before prayer, after prayer. You make me sick. Darla from the Little Rascals. Okay, so you guys get it. You can see the whole thing another time. But there is power in our worlds, in our words. And also, what I would like to do is a continued, deeper research experiment on this study, which is so cool. But I would like to try saying the words with a different energy and see how that lands, right? Like if I were to say, thank you, that might be a beautiful little snowflake, organized, right? Example. Or if I was like, thank you, all sarcastic, I wonder what that would do. So, all that to say, communication is so much about what is carried invisibly, what is carried somatically, and how it lands on us. And this is where I started to really shift the toxic dance with my husband. I will get into it, but I want to share one more video that really helps highlight this point. I love that Kelly brought up marbles yesterday. She didn't know I was going to share this today. But to highlight the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation, listen to this.
I've heard about your marble jar theory, so I got a jar of marbles.
I saw that.
Could you explain to me your theory?
This is how we teach trust. Where do I get my information? Ellen's in 4th grade, my oldest. She comes home from school. She slides down the door into a heap, sobbing. Oh my God, Ellen, are you okay? Are you hurt? What's going on? Something hard happened. She shared it very confidentially with 1 or 2 of her friends. They had told everybody in her class, all 30 kids. Everybody was laughing and pointing and making fun of her. And she said, I will never trust anyone again. And my mind was, damn straight, not fucking person. You trust your mama and that's it. That's not the right thing to do, right? You want a kid who can develop trust with others. So I said, trust is really hard. She said, I don't understand it. I said, trust is the marble jar. Every time you share something with someone that's confidential and they don't share it, they get a marble. When you want to share something really private and personal, you look for a friend whose jar is full of marbles. Do you have any marble jar friends? And she said, Hannah and Lorna. And I said, why? They've got big marble jars that are full. And I said, and this was what? It was crazy. Tell me something they do to earn marbles. Oh, well, like if I get to my tray late at lunch and there's no place to sit, Lorna will scoot over and give me half her seat and I can sit at the table. And then the other day when I had strep throat, Hannah was worried about me. So remember her mom called and said, Hannah's worried about Ellen. Why wasn't she at school? But then the biggest thing that Hannah did was the other day, Oma and Opa, my parents, came to my soccer game and Hannah looked over and goes, oh my God, your Oma and Opa are here. And I said, why was that a big deal? And she goes, because everybody's divorced and remarried. And I've got 4 sets of people and she remembered their names. And what was shocking to me is that Ellen was conveying that these marbles were being earned on these very small, she knew my grandparents' name. She gave me a seat to sit at. She checked on me when I was missing school. Trust is built slowly over time, a marble at a time. And that's how we teach trust to the most senior leaders in Fortune 100 companies.
Okay, story time. I'm going to get very, very real with you guys. I want to share something that I've never shared publicly. What I will say, which most of you have heard, the public story of our breakthrough and our resurrection after getting to a place where we were separated on the verge of divorce. The shift really was in the communication and the energy shift where I was rising and becoming this new vibrational being and learning how to find safety in my body for the first time ever. And even though my husband and I were separated at the time, he would come over every now and then because we still wanted to keep it as normal as we could with the kids. And one day I remember we were having the first extended conversation that we had had since we split. And he was disclosing kind of confession time, which normally would send me spiraling and would trigger me and would activate my fear of rejection and abandonment and all of the pain I know so many can relate to. And for the first time ever, as I was listening to him, I was doing this experiment. So here's some practical advice if you're wanting to make the shift and change the dance in your relationship is in these moments of communication, practicing how can I feel safe in my body and stay with myself. And that might be just a hand over a heart, hand over your belly, noticing the floor planted beneath you, taking a pause, like Julie was saying, and going slow and just dropping from your head right into your body and noticing just different sensations. Maybe doing a grounding tool like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things I can hear. See, 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can touch, 2 things I can smell, 1 thing I can taste. Whatever you need to do, and this is where I work with women to build their own unique resourced toolbox, whatever brings you back into you and into safety and into that present moment. Then when you're communicating, when you're listening to your partner and you're wondering, like, are they telling me the truth? Can I trust them right now? Many of us are seeking that trust in this hyper-vigilant energy of eyeing their every move and their every facial expression. And did I see their nose flare, like Kelly was saying yesterday? What does that mean? Like very focused on them and trying to find trust in them. And so the small insignificant shift that nobody's even going to notice but you is, okay, as they're sharing with me and talking with me, what am I noticing in my body? Just like that water experiment, the way words land and either can create coherence or disorder. Are his words landing on me and creating coherence, or are they creating disorder? Is my breath slowing down? Are my muscles starting to loosen? Is my mind starting to go, slower? And I started experimenting with this, and I didn't know the marble jar theory at the time, but I made up my own marble jar theory where I was writing down and literally taking notes so that I could give myself some objectivity of this interaction today, this is how it landed on my body and felt. This interaction didn't feel so good. This interaction, whoa, actually felt good. And I'm learning and I'm building this self-trust of I can trust that my body doesn't lie to me. When I get into my regulated state, right? When I get into that safety nervous system, I can trust that my body doesn't lie to me. And that if my body feels safe and open and receptive, I can trust that. So my husband and I started to shift and we started to change the dance where I was starting to notice with my marble jar theory, my notes I was taking, whoa, I'm shocked. I'm actually having a lot more positive experiences than negative. Our negativity bias makes us just want to focus on the negative. Anybody feel this? When things are bad, you can't remember any of the good. It's like it all disappeared. And so this little exercise was so helpful for me to get some objective scientific experiment under my belt. And same thing Julie did. She started to notice, okay, whoa, the marbles are filling in the opposite direction. She did not rush into a decision, and nobody ever pressured her. Some people did, but not the people she was listening to. They just created space for her to go through her own journey and like take as much time as she needed to hear her own intuition. So, this is the story that I've never shared publicly. Once my husband and I started to have breakthroughs, it was still messy. It was still slips and mistakes, and we were learning this new dance. So, we'd still fall back into old patterns and step on each other's toes. And after I started following this call, this very intuitive God nudge to start sharing publicly and invest all of my money, time, energy into learning and deepening my own practice, my own training, my own certifications to be able to pass this to other women with integrity. I started seeing this work for other women too. And then there was a major moment that had me questioning everything. Sebastian had crossed boundaries again, and honestly, of all the things that were spinning through my head, you know how I was questioning the most? Myself. Yep. So I want to share a raw journal entry with you after one of these moments, and I hope that my words can put language and also dissolve shame to your experience, that you can feel a little less alone, that this is so collective, and to be able to maybe renegotiate and organize your own emotions with whatever you've been through. So this is what I wrote. With a mix of dissociation and dancing with what was, I listened to the whole story. By story, I mean Sebastian disclosing to me what happened. To the dreaded details to my worst nightmare. I shook my hands to release what I could while being buckled into a moving car. It's going like this in the car with him. The kids were in the back seat. The days that followed are best described as wordless despair. I spent days in bed just staring at the window with no will to move, speak, or even numb out on a screen. I was too numb to numb out anymore. Like the walking dead, except I wasn't walking, I just felt dead. Dorsal vagal shut down, I whisper inside my brain to myself. This is how animals preserve their life in the wild. This is normal. The nervous system coach part of me continued to chatter facts to my brain to try to make sense of this total disconnection from my body, from self, from society, from source. I looked outside the window and it was cloudy gray, rainy, no sign of warmth from the universe. Just icky cold and the sensation of my own vibration sinking into the seat beneath me, leaving my body. Time was frozen, the walls of the car closed in on me, my breath stood still and body went stiff. I looked into the eyes of the man I'd repaired so much broken trust with and pleaded with my eyes, don't let this be true. I can't handle this again. You promised to protect my heart. So I allowed it. I went through the motions. I peeled myself out of bed to drive myself to the airport and get on a plane to see my mother, who happened to be dying. Becky, just get here so we can be miserable together, she said. With a sleeping child in the back seat and the other waiting to be picked up, I had no choice but to let this trauma pause and freeze within my body. A moment of two entirely conflicting impulses. One to scream and curse and run and shake, and the other to keep it together, pause my instincts, and fulfill my responsibilities as a parent. Shelf the progression of my world falling apart for a moment to be a mom. So I remember pulling myself off the mattress, and guys, it was like gravity I'd never felt before. I actually called Julie in that moment in the car. I was like, Julie, Mayday, like code. This is what's happening. And then the day I had a flight to go see my mom, it felt like inertia like I'd never felt. Long story short, that plane experience was a nightmare. I've never had such a bad airport experience in my life. There was a delay. I was sprinting through the airport. I missed my connecting flight. The front desk lady gives me this water bottle. I'm so fucking mad she gave me a water bottle. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? Now I have extra stuff to carry. I'm pissed and crying my eyes out in the middle of the airport. And it was just all this completely new experience for my already fried and fragile nervous system. So guess who I text next? Text Kelly Brock what's happening. I say to her, I'm taking it slow. I'm resisting every impulse in me to victimize the shit out of myself. And her response was this. It was a moment, one of those moments that I'm like, this is changing the trajectory of my life forever. She texted me back, circumstances will make you want to believe that you are a victim. This did happen to you, and you are still at power and choice here. Grieve, rage, mourn, be sad, be bitter, process, let it move through you. You're allowed to not be okay and move through that real part of this. Don't bypass. So I made a choice at that moment. I chose to see all of this is happening for me and not against me. And that took the inertia gravity feeling to even decide that. I chose to believe that I was being divinely guided rather than forgotten by divine. And I chose gratitude over scarcity, even though every single instinct in me wanted to show me how big of a pity party I could throw myself. So I sleep in this random airport in this random city. I didn't know anyone. Everything was new. I wake up. Guess what my gate number was? Gate 111. Guess where she freaking placed me? She placed me in first class. Guys, literally 2 days before this bomb had dropped on my life, I was manifesting first class. I said, that's the next thing I want to manifest. I've never ridden first class before. I kid you not. I was like, what? I'm in first class? I didn't even realize it till I was boarding. Then I look at that stupid water bottle. You know what it had? Had a gift card in it. I got some free food. I got the most expensive wine on that menu. I treated myself. I get to my mom's house in Connecticut. She has this little rose quartz heart, the stone. I look up the meaning. You know what the meaning is? My mom doesn't know crap about crystals and all of that stuff. She just thought it was some cool thing she got from like Goodwill. I look up the meaning. It says, encourages self-love, self-acceptance, and emotional healing. Soothes heartbreak, grief, and emotional wounds by softening anger and resentment. Helps reopen the heart after betrayal or loss. Like, the fuck? And then on my way home, I sit next to this sweet young man, Scott the sea captain, who was telling me all of his stories about weathering setbacks and storms on the ocean. I swear everything was this metaphor, just speaking to my soul, and just the kindness of a stranger was thawing this Walking Dead feeling I had. The rental car they happened to give me was a Chevy Malibu, which this may seem so small, but that was my old car. And I was like, something familiar. After so much unfamiliarity, thank you, God. And then I remember praying, I said, God, what is available for me to know or understand in light of this recent relapse? And then it was like this message, clear as day, dropped into me, said, go check the Bible app, verse of the day on your phone. I was like, okay, random. I opened it up. Do you know what it said? It was the verse that said, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And it was this settling to the core of my being. You know what happened right after I read that? All of a sudden, I get all these random text messages from the small core group of people that knew what I was going through, sending these comforting messages. So it was just like, whoa, as soon as I shifted my lens, it just felt like it was flooding in. And I had peace that passes understanding, peace I had never experienced in my life, peace that made no damn sense given the situation at hand. What this is the reticular activating system. So what this is it's a network in your brainstem that filters what you notice. It doesn't decide what's real, it decides what's relevant based on what you focus on and believe. So it's that red car thing. When you're shopping for a red car, all of a sudden you see red cars everywhere. So I'm not a big car girl, but drop your dream car in the chat. Like, what is it that is like, if money were no option, this is what I would buy today. So when you think life is hard and everything is happening to me, your reticular activating system highlights the problems and the setbacks, reinforcing that story. But when you shift to life is supporting me, God is showing me signs, your reticular activating system starts spotting coincidences, opportunities, and guidance everywhere. So the world doesn't suddenly change, your filter does. Your new mindset trains your brain to perceive support, and it creates this feedback loop where faith and gratitude and awareness all starts reinforcing each other. That's why we anchor in the little wins and root to rise. No, I'm like, no matter how stupid, maybe it's you just like brushed your hair today. We're anchoring that in, baby, because the more you focus on that, the more it's going to come your way, the more it expands. You're literally teaching your brain to see the evidence of grace in your life. So, who are the people in your life committed to helping you readjust your reticular activating system? to detect how life is happening for you rather than to you. For me, it's Julie, it's Kelly, it's my best friends Courtney and Aaron, it's my husband. Honestly, it's my entire community now that I've latched to, that I've decided to immerse myself in. Feels like one giant reticular activating system. That did not used to be the thing. I used to be the friends that would help me feed my pity party. You know, you're right, girl, you should be mad. And so, all that to say, guys, the mistakes, the relapses, the slips, like we said yesterday, you're going to get off this masterclass and blow it. Okay, you blow it. And then in this moment, just decide, I'm going to try again. I know what it's like to be constantly trying to fix your relationship, to analyze, to plan, to push yourself to feel safe, and all of that effort just to see the same freaking patterns creep back in. You end up feeling exhausted and frustrated and maybe scared that nothing will ever change. So, what we've done over these last few days was give your nervous system a real taste of safety, the kind that doesn't depend on anyone else, that's outside of your circumstances. We're done outsourcing our power. The Premier League woman remembers authority is inside, safety is inside, trust begins inside. And so, that feeling that you've experienced, your body already knows how to come home to peace. This is just proof that you've tasted it. The challenge is making that state sustainable. And so that's exactly what Root to Rise is built for. Now, full transparency, I normally only share about my program on individual calls. I've never shared about it on a workshop like this before, but there have been so many of you that registered for this, which I'm thrilled about. There's so many of you here today that I would love to share the details all at once if I have permission. I've already had quite a few of you asking me in the DMs, but since I'm a trauma-informed coach, I want to honor consent first. So I'm asking for permission. If you want me to share about my Root to Rise journey and what the experience looks like, just drop a yes in the chat. Slideshow. Okay, so you've seen this already. This is my Premier League woman, and this is the journey that I take you on, Julie and I together on Root to Rise. We start with dissolving shame and embodying radical self-acceptance and self-compassion, because honestly, it doesn't matter how great the trainings, the coaching, the modules are to follow. If you're in a shame storm, everything's going to go in one ear out the other. Next, we find safety in our body again, in our nervous system. What we've tasted here, we learn to make it stick, for that to be the dominant state. Because honestly, without safety, if you're still in a survival response, nothing will stick. It's like throwing a seed on concrete and then hoping it'll take root and hoping something will grow. This is why so many of us do feel stuck when we're only working from the neck up. And then we learn to step back into our power, our identity. After situations that have rendered us powerless, we learn how to energetically and somatically step back into what we call inside the program, nothing to prove, nothing to posture, nothing to protect, and no one to please. That is our essence. That is our new energy. And then we move up to the heart space, which I mentioned yesterday. This is where we hold grief. So we actually learn how to complete grief, how to master compassionate boundaries, which is how I can love you and me simultaneously. Boundaries aren't 30-foot walls, they're an invitation to intimacy, where we open our heart to be able to give love without losing ourselves, and we open it enough to let love in without blocking our intimacy because of past hurt. Then we get into communication, which I told you everyone comes through the door screaming, teach me how to communicate. Promise we get there, because communication is 93% somatic. Everything we do leading up to this point is already prepping you. You're already doing the work. So we embody truth as an identity. I am a woman who embodies truth. The inside matches the outside. I communicate authenticity. And then deepening our intuition and healing spiritual trauma is the end of the journey. And this is really important to me. A lot of women come in with church hurt, religious abuse, spiritual trauma. And so it's important before you graduate that that area of your life really feels aligned and you feel strong with your relationship with your God. So this is the overall bird's eye view journey that you'll go on in Root to Rise. As far as a week at a glance, what you get access to is one, the Root to Rise course. It's an 8-lesson self-paced course that you can go through at your own pace. And as questions naturally come up, you can bring those to our live group sessions which we have twice a week, one with a guest expert, one led by me. And then you have access 24/7 to me, Julie, and the other peers in the program through our community in between. So it's not like where you have to wait for your weekly session to squeeze everything in. It's a community, it's ongoing support that you can pull your phone out of your pocket, even if it's midnight, middle of the day, and say, I'm triggered, what do I do right now? You get real-time support. There's an optional one-on-one coaching support package where you get Julie once a month live if you want that, and others just choose to do the group, so that's up to you. So that's week at a glance. Okay. So total value of the Root to Rise program, it is 7,000 USD. I've had clients say it's worth over 70,000. If you're a client of mine right now, past or current, would you just drop in the chat what you feel this journey has been worth to you? And these are just a couple of quotes from this week of breakthroughs. We have a breakthroughs channel where we anchor in all the wins, big or small. So these are just some examples. So I want to offer you an exclusive bonus if you're the woman that feels ready to say yes. If you already know this is for you, if you're ready to say yes, here's a bonus you'll get for signing up in the next 24 hours. So Denisha, thank you, Denisha. She's going to drop the link to sign up. And the fun bonuses with this is you're going to get $2,000 off the program. You'll get 3 extra months. So essentially doubling your time. It goes from 3 months to 6. And you'll also get 2 deep dive calls with me that you can use at any time. So if you already know you're a yes, you can just take that link. There's a pay in full option and there is a payment plan option if you want to break it up. For those who still have questions, you're like, I'm resonating, Becky, but I still have a few questions. I'm opening my DMs for the next 24 hours. Denisha is going to drop my Instagram link, and I've made myself available just for anyone who has a few things you need to talk through, and we can get you a response so that you could take advantage of the 24-hour bonuses. Now, if you're someone who's like, okay, Becky, I'm leaning in, but I have some major questions I need to move through. I'm okay missing the 24-hour bonus, but I need to talk. Then I've opened up my calendar for 20-minute slots over the next few weeks. Denisha's gonna drop that link and then she gets to call it a day. Thank you, Denisha. Just for booking today, I'll send you a guided intuition visualization just to honor your commitment to self-trust. But you have all of those now in the chat if you want to grab those. This masterclass is your breakthrough. Like Kelly said yesterday, it can change your life, and Root to Rise is where that breakthrough becomes your baseline. What starts in your body changes everything. It changes your marriage, your parenting, your leadership. So this journey is not just for your relationship, it's really for your whole life. This is fun videos of me and Julie meeting our clients in real life for the first time at our retreat. So this is my invitation to you to know that you don't have to do this healing alone anymore. And Root to Rise is a space where women rise together safely and steadily and somatically. So if you know you're ready, just click the link in the chat to sign up today. You'll see options to pay in full, or you can choose payment plan, or just shoot me a DM after this call if you've got a few more questions. I love you all. And what I'm going to do is close in a prayer, if that's okay with you. If you want to close your eyes, you are welcome to. Take a deep breath in and release. God, thank you so much for every single woman, every single soul on this call that was uniquely designed by you with her own unique DNA, her own unique gifts, personality, spiritual talents, her own Enneagram, her own design. God, thank you for every woman that has taken the time out to invest in themselves and shift themselves to deepen self-trust so that may be able to spill into the circle around them, into their relationship, into their children, into the world, into their future generations and lineages. God, it's an honor to be able to hold this space. And my prayer is that every single woman walks away from this call today a completely new being. Not in like a brand new, changed herself, became a new version of her type of way, but a woman that remembers her essence, that remembers her power, that remembers she's got her own wings and all she has to do is the courageous, brave step of beginning to flap them again. God, I pray you bless every single woman on this call with supernatural transformation and miracles in her life. That she can show up every day over the next year as that 10-year vision woman and start repping her out every single day so we can get back together in a reunion a year from now and share all the miracles, share all the transformation, share all the breakthroughs. Thank you so much that we don't have to do this alone. We can do this in community and support, and we can lean on you, our source. I love you so much. Amen. This has been so magical. I don't want it to end. I can't wait to hear what next steps feel most aligned for you. Again, I'm here to support. I love you to pieces, and this replay will go out by the end of today. Bye, everybody. Huge hugs.